Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic.
I'm Barry P. Cook, and I'm here to discuss the first episode of Season 6 of DC's Legends of Tomorrow, which just aired last night. It was called Ground Control to Sarah Lance. And it picked up right where the end of Season 5 left off, which was with Sarah being kidnapped, presumably by aliens, and sucked up into the mothership, as it were. And when we rejoin our heroes, the rest of the team is unaware of this, and they're waking up, at least some of them, from various states of having partied the night before, after they went to the club. And so it takes them a while to realize Sarah's not around, and they're trying to figure out where she went. Gideon can't tell them. But it was funny in the beginning because how the episode opens is Mick returns to the ship after dropping his daughter off at her mother's, and he finds Sarah's girlfriend, would-be fiance, sort of passed out drunk over the toilet. And there are a whole bunch of people on the ship who are not part of the team who are also passed out drunk. And it was funny because Mick is the only one who wasn't at the party. So that's kind of funny because normally he's the drinking, partying guy, and he's the one that's stone cold sober, doesn't have a hangover, none of that. He wasn't at the party. This is kind of funny. But he and Sarah's intended set off to figure out what happened to Sarah. So they go looking for John Constantine, and Zari 2, that is, who it turns out spent the night together in like a hotel, it seems, and got it on. So they don't know where Sarah is. These folks all together now go down to the club to see if they can figure out what happened with Sarah, and they find Nate hanging out with David Bowie at this club. It's in London, by the way. And there are a few moments there where the guy that's playing Bowie sings a little bit, and it's not very good, unfortunately. But, and he doesn't look anything like Bowie, so it was really bad. But he's supposed to be David Bowie, and he kind of sings, and the team figures out, he's singing about Sarah. Sounds like he's talking about Sarah. So he explains to them, yeah, I saw her. I was running my camera last night, shooting footage of the band. And he gives it to them, and they realize that Sarah gets sucked up by aliens. And also that Sarah was about to propose to her lovely girlfriend. But anyway, we eventually join Sarah on the spaceship, and it turns out she's in a bit of a pickle because the spaceship has left Earth orbit and is traveling who knows where, about to go through a wormhole. So she has to get on the stick and get herself out of there. But as the team regroups more fully back on the time ship, they start to talk about how we've got to find Sarah and she's lost. And the girlfriend says, she's not lost, she is pre-found. So that was cool. As in, we're going to find her, it's just we're in the state before that. She's just pre-found, she's not lost. And it was a kind of a humorous moment because she was using the playbook, I guess, that Sarah had established for how to, approach any mission. And it said stuff like, let Mick drink until he learns to cooperate, because he says, well, I'm not doing this, I'm going to have a beer. And the girlfriend looks down at the book and it says, let Mick drink until he decides to cooperate. She checks it off. And then John says, okay, well, I've got an idea. I'm going to go do this. And then Zari 2 is like, yeah, I think I'm going to help him. And the girlfriend's like, yeah, okay, that'll work. And she looks down at the book and says, let any relationships that are going to play out, play out. And she checks it off. It was just kind of funny because stuff like that kept happening. Now, this thing that John was going to go do, to get more specific, is try to find Sarah via a psychic connection that he claims they have had ever since he brought her back from the afterlife, which, I guess they sort of explained at the time. They said something about it, I think. Maybe they didn't, but it makes sense. So there you go. At one point, the girlfriend mentions she has a plan too, and she's going to call the DEO to get Alex Danvers to help locate Sarah, because if she gets sucked up by aliens, that's what the DEO does. And I forget who it is, but someone says to her, won't that be awkward, seeing as Sarah sort of had a fling with Alex? And I don't remember that occurring. So I don't know if they threw that in just to sort of throw it in, or if it actually happened on a previous crossover or something. I don't remember. It probably did. But yeah, so there you go. The thing, though, is that, of course, Alex left the DEO, and apparently the DEO was later destroyed anyway. If that happened on Supergirl, I forgot, or in a crossover, I forgot, but apparently there is no more DEO at all. But either way, Alex had left the DEO before that, and so I don't know why the girlfriend didn't know that, but she wasn't going to be able to help. Why they didn't still try to, reach out to her, you'd think they'd know how to get a hold of Supergirl or whatever, but they still didn't do that. But anyway, back on the ship, Sarah is walking around and she comes across another prisoner that's been kidnapped, and it turns out to be the historical figure Spartacus.
I'm Spartacus!
I'm Spartacus.
I'm Spartacus!
I'm Spartacus.
I'm Spartacus!
I'm Spartacus. I'm Spartacus. I'm Spartacus.
Which is kind of funny. And there's a fight scene that ensues, and she kind of kicks this alien's butt after Spartacus accidentally releases it from its chamber. And it was pretty funny because she had to show him up and kicking the alien's butt, which I thought was cool. She also ends up kind of tussling with him, and he says something about, if you end up getting killed trying to get to the bridge or get to the head of the ship, don't worry, I will avenge you. And she says, no, I don't want you to avenge me. Being an avenger is stupid. Be a preventer. I thought it was funny because it's a knock at the Avengers, which is a Marvel property, but be a preventer is kind of a funny concept versus being someone who avenges. I thought that was a good line. But this doesn't work out too well because they go to sort of get to the control room of the ship, and while she wants to go in all stealthy and slow and in a strategic way, Spartacus is having none of it, and he just rushes in and gets himself eaten rather graphically by an alien, which was pretty funny. Side note, Sarah looks gorgeous in the punk getup that she's wearing in this episode. Katie Lotz, just very attractive in this particular getup, although she's attractive in pretty much any getup. Meanwhile, we go back to John, who's trying to reach Sarah through his psychic connection with her, but it's not working. So it's suggested to him that he consult a particular mystic book. And so he goes to grab it off his shelf and realizes it's not there. And he thinks, okay, Gary must have moved it or Gary has it. So they go to Gary's room, Gary's his assistant. They go to Gary's room in John's house and don't find him, but they find a gross looking chrysalis thing hanging from the ceiling. It's like human sized. So they get it in their heads that Gary's an alien. And I'm like, what? After all this time, 5 seasons, Gary's an alien? I just thought that was strange. I mean, it's a heck of a choice to make after all this time to reveal that he's an alien. But they did the same thing with the girlfriend. After a couple seasons, they revealed that she's a clone. I don't know why they did this show. I watch this show because it's wacky. I watch this show because it does weird stuff. Just like wacky, out of the box, zany stuff. I think it's very entertaining. And so this fits right in there with that, but it was just a weird choice. So they figure out a new plan. Now they're going to go find this woman that apparently was a bit infamous back in the day in one of the tabloid papers for having been abducted by aliens and brought back to Earth and having a way now to contact aliens because of a thing that's in her head, I guess. So they go try to find her and they wrangle her, and then she goes aboard the ship with them and she says, okay, I'm going to help you guys. And she takes off her hat and she hands it to, I think, the girlfriend, and she's holding the hat. It's a cowboy hat. She's holding it upside down, and you can see there's tinfoil in it. So it's tinfoil in the hat. I thought that was pretty cool because they don't acknowledge it in dialogue. You just kind of see it, and it's kind of funny. But Sarah ends up having another altercation with the aliens on the ship after discovering that Gary is one of the aliens who kidnapped her because he was assigned to kidnap like the greatest fighter or one of the greatest assassins on Earth, but couldn't do it for so long because he fell in love with humanity. And she ends up locked back in one of the chambers, but she cuts her way out with the diamond engagement ring that's in her pocket, because diamonds do cut glass, ladies and gentlemen. So after she gets out, another fight ensues with Gary's boss. And to resolve the fight, she does something that, you do when you have to. It's when in doubt, blow the airlock. And she does this, and she hangs on for dear life, and the boss alien is blown out the airlock, and she manages to close the airlock, and she's on the ship, just her and Gary, and the episode ends there with a to be continued. So she's still on the alien ship, she's still not back home. Team Legends hasn't been able to retrieve her, but it's in the works, and presumably now Sarah and Gary are in control of the spaceship. So we'll have to see what happens next week. Again, I watched this show because it's ridiculous. So in this case, the fact that this whole episode was ridiculous is a feature, not a bug. And I look forward to next week and the rest of the season. But that's all I have to say about Legends. So I'll be back with my next review. Until then, my friends, I say peace and long life.